For the last 22 years, the World Happiness Report has utilized statistical analysis to determine the world's happiest nations. In 2021, the report listed Finland as the happiest country on the planet. But without data to back that up, you might be confused. Well, what makes the happiest country so happy? Researchers analyzed Gallup polling data from nearly 150 countries for the past 3 years. In their analysis, they specifically monitored 6 categories: GDP per capita, social support, life expectancy, perceived freedom, generosity, and perceptions of internal and external corruption levels. So, besides Finland taking the top spot, what else did researchers discover? Viewcation presents the happiest countries in the world. Finland. Finland has a lot to be proud of. As the happiest nation on the World Happiness Report's list, it scored a 7.842 out of a possible 10. Residents report their country has very strong values of communal and mutual support. For example, during COVID-19, Finlanders prioritized their fellow citizens' well-being by strictly abiding by UN health regulations and recommendations. It should be noted they did this willingly and without strong-handed government dictation. Finlanders also feel strongly they're free to make their own decisions. Unlike Americans, they tend to show very little suspicion in their government and consider it to be only minimally corrupt. Both of these factors are strong contributors to a country's overall happiness rating. Denmark. The second happiest nation on Earth is Denmark. Out of 10, it earned a 7.620. Denmark's values on the World Happiness Report are quite comparable to Finland's. In a number of categories, Denmark even outshined Finland. For example, Denmark has a higher GDP per capita. It also scored a higher generosity rating, and overall corruption levels were likewise ranked lower than its fellow Scandinavian country, albeit just by a hair. Switzerland. Not surprisingly, a country that's famous for being the largest consumer of chocolate made the list. As the world's third happiest country, Switzerland scored a 7.571. Generally speaking, the Swiss are pretty healthy. They have one of the lowest obesity rates in the world and boast a longer than average life expectancy. The median salary in Switzerland is also quite high. Comparatively, the Swiss make about 75% more than Americans. The country additionally has the highest GDP per capita amongst the 7 happiest nations. Another factor that makes Switzerland so happy is the fact that citizens have a strong sense of community. The majority of Swiss citizens firmly believe their country is both safe and clean, and the data seems to confirm that. Alongside Denmark and Iceland, Switzerland is renowned for being one of the safest countries in the world. Iceland. The World Happiness Report ranked Iceland as the 4th happiest country in the world in their 2021 report. Out of 10, Iceland scored a 7.554. Icelanders reported the highest feeling of social support among the top 7 happiest countries. This was even higher than Finland, Denmark, and Norway, who all tied for a close second. As far as generosity goes, Iceland ranked 2nd in the top 7, although it's worth noting that it only ranked 11th in the world. The Netherlands. Narrowly edging out Norway for the bragging rights of being the 5th happiest country in the world is Holland, aka the Netherlands. The nation scored a 7.464 out of 10 and ranked higher in generosity than any other country in the top 7. It also displayed a remarkably low score when it came to the public's perception of their country's internal or external corruption levels. Norway. Norwegians ought to feel proud of the fact that their country ranked 6th on the World Happiness Report. Scoring a 7.392, Norway's citizens can attribute their country's high ranking to the fact that their government seems to genuinely care about their well-being. Famously, Norway offers its people free universal healthcare and college tuition. As such, Norway's population is among some of the healthiest and most educated people on the planet. Norwegians also tend to be quite satisfied with their lives in general. They enjoy a healthy work-life balance, averaging about 38 hours of work per week. Compare that to the average 41.5 hours that Americans typically put in each week. Norway is also celebrated for having a very low crime rate. According to the data, the people of Norway report a strong sense of community, a quality that the country shares with many in the top 7. Sweden. Coming in at number 7 is Sweden, with a score of 7.363. While it might not have taken the top spot, Sweden ranked very close to, if not the highest, in almost every category measured. For instance, Sweden's lack of corruption score was higher than all but 4 nations globally, 2 of which are Denmark and Finland. It ranked 14th highest in GDP per capita of all the countries measured and 4th highest in terms of life expectancy among the top 7. Honorable mentions. Due to a technicality, Bhutan was excluded from the 2021 World Happiness Report. Since each nation's scores were based on Gallup polls, and Gallup didn't conduct polling in Bhutan, the country wasn't eligible to be in the rankings. That said, it's well known that Bhutan is one of the happiest, healthiest, and most peaceful places in the world. In 2020, Bhutan was able to mobilize its entire population without coercion to avoid even a single COVID-19 death. They were able to do this despite the fact that they have very strong international travel links. In the revised 2022 World Happiness Report, Luxembourg made the top 10, as did Israel and New Zealand. Luxembourg is known for being one of the world's wealthiest nations. It has a strong GDP per capita, and its citizens report feeling high levels of personal freedom. With a robust healthcare system, Luxembourg's citizens also enjoy a very high life expectancy. It should be noted, however, that Luxembourg is one of the smallest countries in Europe. With only 640,000 residents, its population is a tad bit higher than the US's least populated state, Wyoming. Still, among those citizens, there is a ton of diversity, making Luxembourg a prime example of a thriving melting pot. Israel, despite what some might believe by watching the news, is statistically a very peaceful country. Israelis tend to take great pride in their community and believe in mutual support. They also report being very optimistic about the future, despite living in a nation with a higher than average cost of living and the constant threat of military conflicts looming overhead. The World Happiness Report gave Israel high marks in categories like life expectancy, generosity, social support, health, and GDP. Home to some of the highest-rated universities, such as Tel Aviv University and the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, it's also one of the most highly educated countries in the world. Last but not least, we'd like to take a moment to give New Zealand some praise. While the Swiss have their chocolate, New Zealanders are lucky enough to live in one of the most stunningly beautiful countries on the planet. Plus, they can boast they're from the land of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. Surveys show that New Zealand citizens enjoy a relatively laid-back way of life. Many report that they have more free time to spend appreciating the natural environment after clocking out at work. New Zealand also scored highly for work-life balance, safety, friendliness, and political stability. Happiness has been called a state of mind, but as we've learned by looking at the data provided to us by the World Happiness Report, it also has to do with the nation-state you live in. It shouldn't come as that big of a surprise that to be happy, it helps to live somewhere that provides for all of your basic needs while also making sure your supplemental wants are taken care of. Now it's time to hear from you. Were you surprised to see any of the countries we discussed appear on the World Happiness Report? Let us know in the comments section below.